So today I'll be discussing what the arts is as an overview, linking it with policies, practices, some academic literature, and of course the Australian curriculum. I will also be discussing how the arts can support students with ADHD, as well as identifying the obstacles and possible strategies to overcome these barriers within a classroom. What is the arts? Well, arts education focuses on children developing their individual capability to communicate their ideas, express, and explore. Students learn to explore, make, reflect, and connect by understanding and developing their expressive skills. It is crucial as a classroom teacher to create a learning environment where students can display and mimic these behaviours of respectful and ethical interactions, of course. By allowing students to explore their expressive and interpretive selves, there's a level of safety that must be established prior to implementing the arts into the classroom, which means we're creating a really inclusive classroom for the students to learn. Developing a safe and secure classroom environment allows for students to artistically explore the world around them, judgment-free. In 2010, Ewing discusses the importance of students exploring their bodily senses, meaning their brains and their emotion. This brings cultural, technical, historical, and critical lenses, along with other experiences together to ensure students are developing a comprehension and understanding of aesthetic knowledge. This is ensuring that students are sustaining their engagement and, of course, with student-centered education. More specifically, in 2017, Dinham discusses the importance of creating a very hands-on environment for students to learn and discover whilst incorporating the arts into the classroom. Individuals with ADHD display deficits in areas such as verbal working memory, behavioural inhibition, motivation, emotional regulation, strategy generation, implementation, planning, and self-monitoring. These are all traits which maintain the consistent development of students within a classroom setting. For example, developing emotional regulation allows students to work on their social skills in group and collaborative learning experiences. There are also other behaviours which can affect the learning experiences of students due to ADHD. These are behaviours such as impulsivity, destructive tendencies, and hyperactivity. More specifically, the hyperactivity students with ADHD also experience leads to difficulties sitting still within a classroom setting. This makes mainstream delivery of curriculum extremely difficult. As ADHD is one of the most diagnosed psychiatric disorders in the world, it is becoming more and more evident within a classroom. There are many different interventions which have displayed improvement of behaviours for students with ADHD. For example, medication, art therapy, and some extra support within a classroom. Pedagogies which require sitting and focusing on specific topics for a significant period of time can be a major challenge for students with ADHD. Therefore, it is incredibly crucial for teachers to develop and adapt pedagogies in the classroom which are inclusive, cater for individual learner needs, and are engaging. Which brings me to the authentic delivery of the arts curriculum within a classroom. When unpacking the Australian Curriculum, Assessment and Reporting Authority, the key ideas involve two major strands, making and responding. Making involves students engaging in each of the art subjects of dance, drama, visual arts, media arts, and music by using cognition, imagination, senses, and emotion. A direct statement from the Australian curriculum is students learn, develop, and refine skills as the artists and as the audience of their own work and as the audience for the works of others. This creates a basis for the students to explore artworks, including their own, from a range of viewpoints by utilising their communication and evaluation skills. Students are learning to critically respond and evaluate presentations, products, artworks, and performances. Elliot Eisner discusses a particular viewpoints within his philosophical research article in 2009, which outlines the different ways that education can learn from the arts when delivering the curriculum. For example, he touches on the limits of language, pointing out that language does not limit our cognition. Therefore, the use of the arts will allow people to deliver their knowledge through differentiated and modifiable ways, thus creating an inclusive environment. Another advantage the arts curriculum has on teaching pedagogies is the delivery of the content, which is divided into bands of year level. For example, Foundation to Year 2, Year 3 and Year 4, Year 5 and Year 6, and so on. They are grouped together to achieve the same achievement standard and content descriptors. This gives students and teachers multiple years to dive into the content descriptors and has a deeper knowledge of what is expected of students in those age brackets. Diving into the basis of creating an inclusive classroom when teaching authentic arts, the Alice Springs Education Declaration, Disability Discrimination Act of 1992, and the Australian Teaching Standards all link together to create a base foundation for teachers to create an inclusive classroom when teaching the arts. For example, the first teaching standard states, "Know your students and how they learn." This establishes the importance of understanding the individual students when implementing the arts into the classroom for the most effective delivery of authentic arts. More specifically, Teaching Standard 1.5 states, "Differentiate teaching to meet the specific learning needs of students across a full range of abilities." Embedding these policies into the arts classroom allows teachers to improve their practice by reflecting and analysing how they have or maybe have not created an environment that is inclusive, engaging, and caters for all different learner needs. Now, getting a little bit more specific on what an inclusive, authentic arts classroom might look like, might sound like, and especially might feel like for the students that are involved. Understanding inclusion and what it looks like within a classroom is a topic that has been theorised, studied, researched, and philosophised for many, many years. Kate Hatton published an article in 2015 about the different perspectives of incorporating the arts into an inclusive classroom. She discusses themes such as adapting critical lens to use appropriate pedagogies when delivering the arts curriculum, ensuring students are improving their creative and social skills and identities. Hatton makes an incredibly justifiable argument when discussing the arts curriculum being designed for students of the future, when catering for diversity and understanding the outside influences students are susceptible to in their individual lives. A piece of literature that absolutely complements Hatton's work is the philosophical construction written by Elliot Eisner in 2009. I mentioned that earlier because I find that it has such an impact on the authentic classroom when creating an inclusive environment. This piece is titled "What Education Can Learn from the Arts" and is broken up into 9 incredibly strong points. Eisner discusses the foundation and backbone of the arts and how it can be embedded into the classroom by adapting pedagogies, content, and context to improve teaching and learning experiences. In more detail, Eisner discusses an argument around perception. He elaborates on the importance of slowing down perception to see what is really there. When these points of views and philosophies are incorporated into the classroom, students become more aware of their surroundings, and which creates an inclusive environment with absolutely room for mistakes. Students with ADHD are often the students who fidget, don't sit still, and maybe fail to listen and finish their schoolwork. Students with ADHD can benefit from adapting arts education pedagogies into the classroom, as there is more time for movement, creativity, independence, and acceptance for diversity. Continuing on from what it might look like in a classroom, how can the curriculum be utilised to support students with ADHD in the classroom? A more practical approach linking the curriculum, policies, literature, and the philosophies that I've already stated before. As stated earlier, the implementation of the arts creates a foundation for students to explore different areas, such as the 5 subjects of art. Students with ADHD display behaviours like impulsivity and hyperactivity. When establishing an inclusive classroom for students with ADHD, are able to explore different skills to channel these behaviours through the use of art. For example, composing and performing dance. As discussed by Dinham, teachers are able to use their knowledge of how individual students learn to modify and differentiate art experiences to ensure the environment's inclusive. A major benefit of incorporating the arts into a classroom for students with ADHD is that the arts help students find meaning and purpose in schooling through engaging experiences. The arts curriculum outlines many avenues which are able to be differentiated for individual learner needs. For example, a sub-strand for Year 3 and 4 dance is perform dances using expressive skills to communicate ideas, including telling cultural or community stories. This can be modified in many different ways through the use of resourcing cultural dance videos as inspiration for students to explore their perspectives. For students with ADHD, activities that have guided freedom allows for growth, engagement, and exploration. Although on the contrary, in 2001, Eric Carbon establishes the issues students with ADHD face when completing fine motor tasks such as art projects. Teachers will always be facing obstacles that they have to overcome, whether they have time to create strategies or have to think on the spot, which outlines the importance of creating an inclusive classroom that can adapt when overcoming obstacles like this. One of the major strategies for teaching students with ADHD is to incorporate movement into the classroom. ICARA allows for students to explore the movement art offers in areas such as dance, music, and drama. As stated earlier, the arts education allows students to explore movement individually, acceptance, and an open-minded tasks. These major factors allow students with ADHD to explore their lives without having to fit in a mold or a box. Gilbert interviewed a range of dance teachers about their opinions on dance education. All participants outlined the lack of competence teachers face within a primary school. Providing classroom teachers with the professional development to incorporate action research into the classroom when teaching the arts will allow for growth, reflection, and updated pedagogies. And finally, in conclusion, when adapting the arts Australian curriculum into a classroom for students with ADHD, they are able to develop many different skills to benefit their learning experiences. The arts comes hand in hand with unique experience, self-acceptance, authenticity, and of course, growth.